Or are we just going to sit and wait?
I always laugh every time at the start. It's like, I can't help it. Every video I get the giggle shit. Okay. Hola, Timothy Phoenix here, and welcome to my blog, which is all about rising from the flames of adversity to create your dream life using the law of attraction. Now today, I have another very special guest with me. As you can see, this is the beautiful Rebecca. Say
hi,
Rebecca. And I didn't need to prompt you there, did I really? And the reason that I got Rebecca on is because I met her recently at the Vinyasa Yoga retreat here in Koh Samui, Thailand, where I'm now living. And she's a very interesting person, and I would like her to come on and talk about her life that she's created, the reality that she's created. She wouldn't say necessarily using the law of attraction. I would say that is what she's done, but that will make it all more interesting. So if you could just explain what the hell you're doing in Koh Samui, that'd be lovely.
Of course. So I've just spent the past week here at Vinyasa, basically giving myself a little bit of a yoga treat for a week. So yeah, giving myself some time to be healthy, working at the same time as well. So mixing work and an enjoyable lifestyle and getting fit in the meantime.
And maybe you could explain a little bit about your life, where you're from, where you live at the moment.
Okay, so where I'm from is always the sort of long answer that I've got. So I'm half Swedish, half English, born in Denmark, and I grew up also spending years in Spain. So I left the UK, which I would have said, normally I say that I'm British, but you're getting the long answer here. So I left the UK 20 years ago now, and the most part of my sort of adult life has been spent living in Spain. And the last 7 years I've been based in Vietnam, and the last, I'd say 2 years, I'm spending my time between Vietnam and Spain, and wherever I feel like being in between.
Yes, and we talked about it quite a lot. She's only been here a couple of days, but it's been interesting because the life that Rebecca's got is pretty much the life that I'm trying to get for myself and I'm trying to build. I'm not quite there where you are yet, but you're going to hear about that in a bit. But really it's all about, the reason I've got Rebecca on is to talk about freedom, about how you can create freedom in your life and how you can create your own reality, whether you want to put the label law of attraction on it or not. We all have that power within us. We can create it. And Rebecca's a good example of someone who's done that without consciously manifesting, and so that's the reason I've got Rebecca on. So yeah, it'd be good to hear about the transformation that took place, because this is also about, similar to me and a lot of people that I've had on, we've had difficulties in our life, we've had struggles, but we've managed to turn it around, and Rebecca is another person who's done that. So maybe you could tell the viewers exactly what your situation was and in the past and how you managed to transform out of that.
Sure. Well, I think first of all I'd like to point out that a lot of times people say, oh well, it's okay for you, you're living this lifestyle. What people forget is it actually takes sacrifices and decisions to start living that lifestyle. It doesn't just happen, it didn't happen by miracle. It's not that I'm an incredibly lucky person. There are decisions that I've made to create this lifestyle. So if we go back to difficult times that I've had in my life as well, which has sort of catapulted me into creating this lifestyle, I would say for me the critical point was, it's now 8 years ago, I was living in Spain at the time. So as I said, I've grown up as an expat kid, so I have moved around already. But in Spain, I set up what was supposedly my dream company. I was very much focused on business at the time, and I wanted to run a business. And I had a certain figure that I wanted to sell that business for by the time I was 35 or 40. And that was going to be my retirement plan, and that was going to give me the peace of mind to live the life that I wanted after that. Unfortunately, just as my company was growing, I had 6 staff at the time, I was based in Barcelona, the crisis happened. So I literally, within 6 months, I lost everything that I had built up. All my dreams pretty much crashed. My personal life also at that time went completely in the wrong direction. I had my heart broken basically. So within 6 months, everything just crashed around me. And I was completely lost. I didn't know what to do. The only thing I could think of doing was going somewhere that I'd, in my dreams, had wanted to be, which would be, in my dreams, it's always somewhere tropical, white beaches, sipping coconuts, because that's what I looked at the pictures of, that's what I looked at other people who I thought had an ideal lifestyle. So I packed up my things and travelled around in Thailand. So again, this is 8 years ago now. That trip ended up lasting 5 months. So I spent time in Thailand, Laos, India, etc. What happened then is my sense of responsibility, panic, fear, all of these started happening. And of course you can't just travel around being on holiday for the rest of your life either, but I felt at the time I needed that as a break. But I then wanted to go back to Europe and do what I thought was the responsible thing, which was get a job. So I prepared what I hadn't had a CV since I was like 20. So I prepared a CV, and I realised after something like 3 or 4 months, I literally hadn't sent my CV out to a single place. I mean, it's pointless making a CV if you're not going to do anything with it. So I just realised that I obviously didn't want to be there. I wasn't happy when I was there. I felt a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, and it was clear to me I was just in the wrong place, trying to do the wrong thing and trying to push something to happen that just wasn't happening. I myself wasn't even taking the steps. So I then decided to come back out and meet a friend of mine in Vietnam. We parted ways within 2 weeks. So I literally found myself sitting in the middle of Saigon, completely on my own. And I had nowhere to go back to because I'd already decided that Europe wasn't for me, there was no way forwards. And I was sitting in a foreign country in what felt to me like the middle of nowhere, surrounded by loads of people that I didn't know and having no idea what to do. So that was quite scary. I struggled for the first, I'd say 4 to 6 weeks during that time, so that was really hard and I had to overcome those fears. As you know now, of course, I did stay in Vietnam and I managed to make a success out of it. But at that time, I had absolutely no idea how I was going to do that. So I guess you want to know the story, right?
Yeah, what's the process? How did you actually make it a success?
Okay, so first of all, I'd made some clothes. Vietnam is really famous for its tailors, so I'd made some clothes. In my mind, I was making clothes because I might need them for work whenever I ended up back in Europe, so I made sort of worky kind of clothes. I never got to use them, by the way. But I ended up showing some of the designs that I created with local tailors. I showed them to a friend back home, and we immediately decided, oh, okay, let's create a clothing brand. So we created a clothing brand, which meant that I had to figure out how to produce these collections, and my friend was going to do all the sales and marketing in the UK.
What's your clothing brand?
It was Huxton, but we closed it.
Okay.
That was not the one that worked.
Oh, right,
so I've always gone through lots of different things. Some work, some don't. But what that did lead me to do is I spoke to different manufacturers because I needed to find somewhere to produce my clothing. By the way, I didn't have much money at the time at all, so I had to do everything on a shoestring. So people don't need to have a lot of money to be able to do things.
Absolutely.
I think that's really important.
It's a massive limit.
It holds people back, and it's not necessary.
They're waiting until they've got a certain amount before they do anything, and that amount very rarely comes along unless they're waiting for a piece of luck, basically. But you've really got to
fear mindset.
Yeah, it's a fear mindset.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I managed to create a collection, but the most important thing for me there was it pushed me to go and talk to different manufacturers because I needed to find somebody that could produce low volumes of the clothing designs that I created. During that time, we got a couple of inquiries on the website of people saying, wow, I really like what you're doing. By the way, I've heard that Vietnam is a really good place to produce. Could you by any chance introduce me to some of your suppliers? Then there'd be a friend of a friend who'd say, hey, would you mind helping me out with this, or just have a look at this or that for me? So I realised that there was an opportunity there. I was in a place where other people needed help with things, and I set up what I would call a mini consulting business. I started off with one client, then after 6 months I got another one, and I think after a year I had 3 clients. And those 3 clients were actually enough for me to make enough of a living to live in Southeast Asia. So Basically, I mean, you can live here with $1,500, $2,000. You can actually live a very comfortable life in this part of the world.
Absolutely.
And yeah, a nice quality of life, and live in a nice place, be able to eat nice food. I mean, the locals live here for like a lot less than that.
Yeah.
So on $1,500, $2,000 a month, you can actually live nicely here. And for me, that was the only goal that I had. I really just wanted to make enough money to be able to get rid of having to worry about exactly that, the money factor. So I was still going through a difficult and stressful time. So once I'd reached that target, I didn't actually push for any more. I think to me it was it definitely was a healing period. It was time that I needed to just be on my own, relax, basically find my way back to myself and heal some of the wounds that I had. After I came out of that period, which I think was probably about 3 or 4 years if I'm realistic about it, I then had my energy back. I knew that I had a small business that was working, and all I needed to do then was really to explore that further and see where I could really take it. This is 3 or 4 years ago, and well, yeah, I now have a business with 4 people that work for me in Saigon. I have clients all over the world. I work with 20 different factories in Vietnam, and I specialise in low volume and high-end production. And I've maintained the freedom that I was looking for. Freedom for me has always been the most important word in my vocabulary. I want freedom above everything else. Okay, happiness is more important, but
freedom, I think, will give you some happiness, but I think happiness is something you have to have as a base level anyway, which is something that I've spoken about before. But yes. So you've created this life of freedom, and I remember asking you when you were here if you were on holiday or not, and what was your answer to that?
I think I went, I don't know. I don't call it holidays, because to me I'm always working. So, I mean, that's the compromise. I can go wherever I want, whenever I want, more or less. I mean, I still have to go back to Saigon where my team is. I still have to go to London because a lot of my clients are there. But in between that, I really work based on Skype and on email. The sacrifice is I work every day. So I will do at least a couple of hours a day. Some days I'll do full days. Sometimes I work weekends, sometimes I work evenings, sometimes I'll take a day off and I'll swap my time around. But that to me is freedom. So sometimes I'll be with friends and I'll say, well, it's weekend, why are you working? And I'll say to them, well, I'm working this weekend because next week I want to go and sit on a beach for a couple of days in the middle of the week. So, it's all compromise.
Exactly. You don't have to stick to those rules that have been set, that we have to work 9 to 5, 8 hours a day, or 8 to 10 hours a day for most people nowadays, isn't it? And then you get your weekends off if you're lucky. And the point I think I'm trying to make when I asked you about what you were doing in Koh Samui, whether you were on holiday or not, because I assumed you were, but you weren't. You just decided you wanted to come here, and you're able to work here because you have that freedom. So it's just like, oh, take off, go somewhere nice. I can do my work there because I've got that freedom to do that. And I think that for me is real freedom, and that's kind of what I'm trying to create as well. That freedom to do what I want when I want, within certain limitations, but
there are always some limitations, and it's fine to have those limitations. We don't need to be just running around the world all the time. We don't need to be on holiday all the time. But I think the main thing that we're saying is having the freedom to choose.
Yeah.
So
that's it. And for me, time is the most important asset we've got. It's the most important thing we've got, and it's kind of making the most of that time to do things that we really want to do. I guess for me, that's real freedom. Being able to use the time how you want to, and most people out there don't have that. They're confined to what they can do, limited to what they can do, way too much. And if you think about it, the way that the world is going now, we were talking about this earlier about this digital nomad thing. I know to me it's just another label, and I use that personally because people have heard of it, and it's just a way of describing that lifestyle of freedom. But we were talking about this earlier, and you wouldn't put that label on it, would you?
Not necessarily. I think maybe it's because I've got a certain stigma surrounding the term digital nomad. In my mind, a digital nomad is somebody it's pretty much like a backpacker who's managing to earn $1,000 a month whilst running around with their backpack everywhere. I personally don't want that life. which is why right from the beginning I set my target at 1,500, 2,000. I prefer to have a base somewhere and travel from that base. I don't want to carry all my belongings on my back and carry 30 kilos or 25 kilos, whatever, around with me. So the way that I've done it is I now have a place that I stay in Barcelona, based in Barcelona, and I have a base in Saigon, which also happens to be an office. That's where my staff work from. So instead of having one rent in one place, I've split it between two places. So I'd say I'm probably in Europe 4 months of the year, I'm probably in Saigon 4 months of the year, and the rest of the time I kind of wherever I feel like, really.
Yeah. So what do you call it then? It's not digital nomad, what do you call it?
Well, there's a different term which I prefer,
Go on.
which is, wait for it, location independent entrepreneur.
Okay.
What's wrong with that?
LIE, location, catchy. Location independent entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I don't know if I want to be a location independent. That's exactly what I want to be. I don't think I'm going to use that phrase though. I'm going to stick with digital nomad.
I'll keep it for myself then.
I like digital nomad.
Okay.
But okay, I see what you mean by, you were saying that some people are getting a bit snobby about it now and they don't like the whole digital nomad term, so they're kind of creating their own terms because although they would have been the original digital nomads.
I'm going to turn it around for you a little bit.
Okay.
I would say that a lot of people are worried that they can't have this lifestyle because they're already too old or too set in their ways. And this is only for some people who, let's say, are in their 20s. So if I turn it around and say, hang on, no, if we look at it in that way, there's actually a whole group of people that look at it the other way around. So I'm now in my 40s, okay? And for me, I don't necessarily want to be a digital nomad in that sense, and I don't have the same fears about doing it because I'm older. I don't want to run around with a backpack. I want to have that freedom, but I want to be able to live in different places at the same time. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, a lot of the time people will say I'm too old to change that kind of lifestyle, and I'm too old to be a digital nomad and be running around with a backpack. So I'm saying, well, hang on, there's different versions of the digital nomad. You don't have to be in your 20s. You can be any age that you want, that you are, and change your life anyway. And your life doesn't have to look like somebody who's running around with a backpack and living on $1,000 a month. It can be anything. You can, I don't know, some people can be earning $10,000 a month or $20,000 a month and have a couple of big houses in different places. I don't know. There's no box. There's so many different ways of living this lifestyle. I just feel digital nomad is a bit too limiting in the way that it's portrayed.
In the way it's portrayed, yes. But for me, I just think it's just a label. It's just a handy label to put on a term, which I personally view it more as it's a lifestyle of freedom, where you can travel if you want to and kind of work as you travel wherever you want in life and the world. And money is just a limitation. The amount of money you earn is just a limitation in your mind anyway. Anyone can earn as much as they want if they really want to. Some people are perfectly happy with that, $1,000 a month. Other people want a bit more luxury and a bit more money. Whatever. For me, it's all the same. And digital nomad term is just, I don't look at it like in that way, as in it's just for a younger generation or backpacking. I think it can be for absolutely anyone, any age. But as you say, there is that stigma to it. I think that's come along in recent times. But I think we're here to say that it doesn't really matter.
We were comparing it earlier on to backpacker and flashbacker. So it's just, people end up with certain terms and they end up meaning a certain thing in our own minds. So for me, digital nomad has ended up meaning that because, I don't know, I guess that's how I've been influenced. But I agree with you, there's no reason why it should mean anything. Digital nomad really should just mean being able to travel around, literally earning a living from what you do on the laptop.
Exactly, I think that's all it is. We can all do that, anyone can do that. I'm just starting to do that now. I'm hoping to get where Rebecca is, because I would like to have that base somewhere and just that freedom, knowing that I can come home to that base.
And not have to carry all your belongings in one bag.
Right, yeah, that as well, although I don't really have many belongings. So, I mean, I've only really got my clothes and my laptop and my phone. That's all I've got these days, so, you know. But yes, I still would like to have, my aim is to have that one base and then just to travel around much of the year anyway, but always know that I can come back to that base. But we're also talking about, with this term digital nomad and different connotations and interpretations of it. And the same thing happens with the law of attraction. Again, for me, it's just a label. Yeah, I talk about it all the time, I use it all the time, but that's more from a marketing point of view, really. For me, it's just a handy term. It does put some people off, but for me, it's just about creating your own reality. I think what Rebecca's done is she's created her own reality without perhaps consciously going through steps to do it like you would with the law of attraction. I just want to talk about that for a bit, because maybe you could say, we were talking about this list that you made.
Yeah, so when I was going through the really difficult time when I was first starting to spend time in Southeast Asia, I wrote down a list which I'd actually completely forgotten about afterwards, and I found this list 2 years ago when I went back to Thailand for Christmas. And in this list there was something like 5 or 6 different points on this list, and my jaw literally dropped and my heart just went up to my throat when I read it. And point for point, but actually I can just tell you what some of them were. One of them, as I already said, was I actually put $2,000, so earn $2,000 a month on a laptop without having to be in a specific place and without having any staff. Okay, so that was the first one. I wanted to live between 3 places, which at the time I said I want somewhere in the west. I always love Barcelona. I wanted somewhere that's under the palm trees. I actually put Pai, which is northern Thailand, or Hoi An, because they're beautiful places. And yeah, so that's the 2 places. Right now my life is actually between 3 places. I also wrote down at the time that the kind of people that I wanted in my environment, so a lot more, I'd say, I don't use the term conscious because again it's conscious people.
No, but that's just a label again, and it's how you perceive that label. People
that are in touch with themselves, people that have open hearts, people that understand where they are and are honest with themselves. That's the kind of people I want to surround myself with. And anyway, so I looked through this list and I was like, oh my god, like $2,000 a month, check. Living between, I put 2 places, anyway, it was 3 places, check. Even the kind of friends that I wanted to be surrounded with, by the kind of personal growth that I wanted, and I literally was just like, oh my god, I actually achieved all of these things. And again, I'd completely forgotten about this list. So it amazed me. But what I realised was that because I was clear about what I wanted, I made those things happen subconsciously. But I took all the steps and made all those decisions because I was very clear on what it was that I wanted. So is that the law of attraction? I don't know. I don't know what you call that. To me, it's my subconscious kicking in and making me make the right decisions to get me to where I wanted to be.
I would have agreed with that totally about maybe even 6 months ago, certainly a year ago. And 2 years ago I never heard of the law of attraction. And I've been kind of working through it, trying to work out what it is, and reading up on quantum physics, and watching all these practitioners, Abraham Hicks and people like this, and Bob Proctor, and watching The Secret. And to be honest, I still don't really know exactly what it is, but I used to say it was more along the lines of your mindset and positivity. Yes, there's probably some stuff going on with your brains neurologically. When you set your goals out and you write them down and you speak them out and you then take action, yes, it's you're training your subconscious mind, or you're creating habits, but it's all on a kind of a scientific / biological frame, if you like, and there's nothing woo-woo about it, there's nothing spiritual about it. But I don't think that anymore, because of what's happened since I've been here, mostly. Because there's just been too many coincidences, and the manifestations have happened so quickly, like within 24 hours, like I've done about, 20 manifestations that have all come true within 24 hours of me putting it out there and doing my visualizations. And I've spoken to too many people, and you will have seen the other videos on the blog from people who are also doing this. And when you see those people and see how normal they are and how down to earth they are, they're not wackos, they're not like intensely
weirdo hippies.
Yeah, not weirdo hippies. They're not intensely spiritual people necessarily. In fact, they're some of the happiest and down to earth people I've ever met, and that just makes me believe in it even more. This thing called the law of attraction. I personally believe it is more than that. I think there is a spiritual aspect to it, or there's something going on. There is a higher power that brings you more opportunity once you start putting it out there and getting in alignment as well with what you want. I think it's partly becoming happier, but you will become automatically happier when you're in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing and what you would like to do.
But I think there's just so many different ways of categorising it or giving it names. I could say that what I wrote down on that piece of paper was what I was asking the universe for.
Yeah.
Is that the same as law of attraction?
That's basically, that's it. That would be it.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you'd said, is that asking the universe for something, then I'd say, yes, I asked the universe for that.
And you took steps, but you had to take action. But I believe what happens is you took opportunities when they came. Like you saw the opportunities and you took them. And for me, I think I've realised that the universe is, when you put it out there and you're in alignment and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in life and you're trying to be happy in life, or you are happy in life, those opportunities get brought to you more and more. And because you're more aware and more awake, I guess, you will spot those opportunities. When you take them or not is a different matter, because some people can see the opportunities and still don't take them because they're scared. There's that fear still there. So that's why action is important. But I believe that, I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't know if it's anything spiritual like spirit guides, I don't know. Some people I've had talking in my videos believe in that. I'm swaying a little bit more towards that now because of what's happened. The coincidences that have happened on their own, a coincidence, yes, but when it's happening 15, 20 times, instantly almost, I don't think it is. I don't think it can be a coincidence. How many coincidences do you have to have before it's no longer a coincidence? For me, it's all about your experiences that you have. And I mean, I would never have believed any of this stuff that's been happening to me, like even a year ago, certainly not 2 years ago. So I think you have to experience a lot of these things to really truly believe in them. But from where I'm sitting, I think everything you've described, that's the law of attraction happening. You got into alignment, you'd already been through your rocky phase, and a lot of people need that to motivate them and push them forward.
Completely agree.
As I did, and that's why I think we were talking about this before, you kind of almost feel sorry for people who are in that comfort zone, because
they're never going to get enough of a shove to really make changes.
Right, exactly. But if you are out there and you're in that, you haven't maybe had anything drastically bad happen in your life, you haven't hit rock bottom, but you're in a kind of a comfort zone, you feel like,
you know, you're not happy, but it's not actually unhappy enough to do something drastic to change it, right?
That, for me, is worse. It might not seem worse, like where you are, but it's worse than hitting rock bottom and going through a bad phase, because where's your motivation to change? Where's your motivation to transform? Where's your motivation to actually go for what you really, really want when you've got the comfortable house, you've got the TV, you've got your Netflix, you've got friends, you know, and you still have, you've got a job, you've got money coming in, but you don't necessarily love what you're doing, and you know something's not quite right, and you know you need to make some changes. Most people don't then have that motivation. No,
they don't. It's too comfortable. It's too comfortable to not face it, to not make any changes, and just stay where you are. Or to take antidepressants. Yeah,
that's another thing as well. And that just, that's a whole other thing. I've written about this on the blog before. You know, I was on antidepressants, anti-anxiety pills. They don't get you anywhere. Simple as that. They don't.
It's just a numbing device, isn't it?
Yeah. You will not. It numbs all your emotions, and then your motivation goes. You feel that you're better than you were before, but you're not really long term, because there's no motivation there.
Well, nothing really changed.
Yeah, nothing really changed. That's right.
So how are you going to get better? The only thing that changed is you're taking a tablet all the time.
We won't go down that rabbit hole though. I've done that in other blogs, to be honest, but it's good to hear someone talking about it. So yes, in terms of the law of attraction then, if we get back to that, I would say that you were initiating that, you were getting it working in your favour, and it helped you to turn your life around. But I think it also proves that you don't have to actually intentionally sit down and do what I do, kind of visualizations, and you don't have to do vision boards necessarily. They're good tools, I think, to work with, and they do work, but you don't actually have to do that. Really, the most important thing, I'm really learning this, is that you just set an intention, and that intention is something that you're in alignment with, and by that I mean something that you love, something that you're going to enjoy doing, something that gives you fulfillment. And I'd say that's pretty much what you've done, right?
Yeah. Or even, I mean, as simply as just saying, have a goal. If you don't have a goal, if you don't have a dream, you've got no chance of getting there, right?
Right.
So have a dream, then that turns into a goal, because you've got to know the direction that you're going in, because how are you going to go there otherwise if you don't even know what direction you're going in?
Yeah.
And then you'll end up taking little steps and making little decisions to go in that direction. And like you were saying before, like opportunities will just happen to come across your path, or certain people across your path. You'll overhear a certain conversation or talk to a certain person who inspires you and just triggers a different thought. And you start to see, oh, well, there's an opportunity, or there's a possibility, or I could do this, or I could do that. But you've got to open your mind, but you've got to see it, because it's there. I actually think it's there all the time. But if we've got the wrong mindset, we don't see it, because we're completely numb to it.
Yeah. The opportunities, the way I look at it, the universe is always providing you little clues, little opportunities,
little nudges
to get where you want to. And most of us don't see it because we're so in our own little cocoon, and usually that's a negative cocoon for most of us, it seems to be. And we definitely can't see outside of those blinkers, and we don't see the great opportunities that are there. Once you start to open up and actually notice them, then things start to change. But you still have to take that risk. And you took a big risk to starting a business. Loads of people would love to start their own business, but they're scared of taking that risk because they're scared of it's going to fail, or they don't have enough money or enough time, or these are all excuses, really.
My first 2 businesses failed.
Yeah. And most successful people have failed at some point, but they learn from the failure and they keep going, they get back on the horse and keep going. I've failed at stuff as well. It's how you view the failure, and I personally don't actually even view it as a failure anymore. It's just a learning process. And we've all got to go through it, all of us have. It's how you react to bad things happening, or what you label as a bad thing happening, is going to determine how well you then go on to do in life, I think. But I still believe that there is a higher power, there's more going on that is bringing these opportunities towards you once you put the intention out, however you want to do it. I might well stop doing my visualizations now, because people I've spoken to who don't do that, and they just set an intention and they're just doing what they want to do in life, are getting brought the same opportunities as people who are consciously trying to manifest. So that might be a route that I go down next.
I actually think it's pretty much the same thing.
No, I think that's what I'm saying. I think it is the same thing. In other words, I don't actually have to do these visualizations, really. But we'll see. It's something I might experiment with, actually.
Sure.
But all I know is, for sure, the things that have been happening with me, particularly since I've come here to Koh Samui, they're so coincidental. I mean, and the people and the circumstances that happen, they're so just crazily weird that I believe it's more than just a coincidence. I think
you got to believe in magic. Magic's great. Believe in it.
Yeah, it is a kind of magic. Yeah, for me. Yeah. But I would say it's all. I would use the phrase law of attraction, just simply because it's a nice, easy phrase that we all kind of understand. But some people get put off by it. For those of you who are put off by it, take Rebecca's stance and look at it the way that she does.
More practical.
Yeah, a more practical way, because it doesn't really matter.
No, I was going to say it doesn't matter. It's whatever works.
Yeah.
The thing is being open-minded enough to actually believe that something's going to work, and things are possible. Things do happen. Opportunities do come. You just got to be open to them.
Yeah, and be brave enough and courageous enough to take the risk and actually grab hold of them when they're there.
You know what's more scary? Is not doing so.
Yeah.
It says, I can't remember who it was that first said it to me, but it was a saying. It's like, if you get to the end of your life and you look back at your life, what are the things that you will regret not having done? And that scares me. So when I think of that and think, right, I don't want to be, I don't know, let's say whenever I'm in my deathbed, my biggest fear is being on that deathbed and looking back on life and going, oh my God, all those things that I could have done with my life, all those amazing experiences I could have had, and what did I do? Nothing. that scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
That's a horrible feeling. I don't want to be that person.
And for anyone
that's the motivation for you.
For anyone who's in that comfort zone right now, think on that, because when you get to 60, 70, 80, whatever, you don't want to end up feeling that. No way.
No.
So yeah, thanks a lot for coming and talking. It's been a real pleasure. I'm really glad to have met you, and yeah, just another wonderful person who's come into my life lately and shared their wisdom to you guys and to me. And yeah, and another thing I would say is that people like Rebecca have started coming into my life constantly now, and that wasn't happening before. I can tell you that much. I think it's, like I say, I think it's more than a coincidence for me personally. But however you want to look at it, you know, start opening yourself up and start making real changes in your life, and set yourself goals and visions and big dreams, and believe that you can get them, and it will come. It'll absolutely come, I believe. So thank you for coming along.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to mythrix.com, that's my blog. And don't forget to share and comment. I really want to hear your thoughts. I want to connect with people, because I spend too much of my life not connecting with people. So come and say hello. Hop onto my Instagram, timothy.phoenix. And yeah, I'm going to be back with some more manifestations, some more beautiful people hopefully to talk to, definitely to talk to. And that's it for now. Hasta luego.
Good luck, everyone.